And now, a word from
Infirmary Media.
Hey dudes and dudettes, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. A podcast chock full of everything that is nostalgic about the 80s, 90s, and more, with nostalgic celebrity interviews. I'm your host, Carlos, and this episode, let's get it on as we're heading into the ring to bring our favorite horror movie characters head-to-head for a special MTV horror movie celebrity deathmatch. So I'm flying solo tonight. We had some scheduling conflicts, so at first I was gonna have one of my buddies on, didn't quite work out. Dylan couldn't quite make it for this episode, so we're gonna rock it out solo. So bear with me, but we got a lot of awesome stuff to get into. We got Halloween's coming right around the corner. We're just like 2 weeks away. So for those of you who are dressing up, I'm curious to see some of the unique Halloween costumes that come out nowadays. Now people really get deep. Like, it's almost like cosplay at a Comic-Con. You really have to know your stuff when you see some of these people. But I'm interested. I got myself a little Batman t-shirt.
I'm Batman.
With a cape for my niece and nephews. We're going to go see them. And we're going to spend some time with them. And then I don't know if it's trick or treating. We talked about the other episode. Some trunk or treat. Is what they do nowadays, where you just walk around a parking lot or something like that, around people's trunks with candy. I don't know. Somehow that sounds just as weird, if not weirder, than regular trick or treating. But that's how it goes down. But I will be Batman this year, accompanying a Flash and I think another Justice League character. So yeah, I'm excited for some Halloween. Also coming up the week of Halloween, we got the The Shining movie commentary.
Here's Johnny!
That Dylan and I just rocked out this last week. It was awesome going out to ESSA. I mean, I've been up to ESSA's more than a few times. My wife and I, we got married just behind the Stanley Hotel. So we are very familiar with the area, but we've never actually stayed there. We've had dinner there. We've walked through it. We've done tours. Everything but staying there. So this was kind of on the bucket list. I'm like, we got to rock this out. So we did that last week. Dylan and I, we spent the whole day out there. They had a nice tiny little hedge maze at the very front of it that you can run around. They have the steps there at the front that you would remember from Dumb and Dumber. There you go, there you go, there you go.
There you go. Thank you, sir. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Scenes like that you see immediately and you want to reenact. You have to. No matter who's there, who's watching, who thinks you're a lunatic, you got to reenact it. So we got down. We went into the bar and restaurant there they have. The bar just totally reminds you of the scene from The Shining, where Jack's having the drinks, talking to the ghost bartender. So yeah, it's an amazing experience. It's a lot smaller than you would think. When you look at it from outside, it's still gigantic, but the way they've got it split up, it's a lot smaller than you would think. Creepy, as you would think as well. So we have some video that I'll put together. I actually still have to go through. We have 6 hours of audio that I recorded while we were sleeping. Just intensifying the creepiness. I recorded ourselves sleeping, and so I still have to go through that audio because I'm missing some deodorant. I can't tell if it's just my negligence or if this was paranormal. I can't tell, but we're gonna find out. So I'm gonna listen to audio. If I hear anything, we'll be adding it to the podcast. So we're still editing that podcast episode, so it will be coming out the week of Halloween, so stay tuned for that one. We're definitely excited. I know a lot of people are anticipating that one, so I'm excited for the anticipation. I'm glad everyone's excited because I looked it up before we did it, and I didn't see too many people. I mean, of course, people watch The Shining in there. People have maybe record interviews of whatnot, podcasts or something maybe there, but I don't think a combination of watching The Shining movie commentary for a podcast has been done before. Not claiming it the first time ever, but one of very, very few. So I'm excited to get it out. And like I said, it'll be out the week of Halloween. So we're getting excited for that. But now, what we're here for? So here for some MTV horror movie celebrity deathmatch.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
everybody, you have to remember this show because this was on like reruns up. They ran this show went through 98 through 2002, but we're still seeing, you know, reruns up on MTV2 and wherever up until like 2008 or 9. So they've been running this show for a while, and because it actually is a solid show. I remember when it first came out in 98, you know, good old 8th grade, you know, Carlos watching Celebrity Deathmatch, Jackass, and all these. MTV was definitely taking a turn. I think I was definitely watching Real World at that point in time as well. So I was thinking I was all sophisticated. But Celebrity Deathmatch was definitely in there. It started on MTV's Cartoon Sushi as a short. It was the one with Charles Manson versus Marilyn Manson. Of course, it's always to play on names on who they're gonna match, or real life beef, or they'll just make it up too. Either way, they actually the way they executed the fights is usually the best part. It was brought back in '98 for MTV's Super Bowl halftime special. I think that was the Beavis and Butthead one. I can't remember. But just a few months later, it was definitely on the MTV's lineup, one of their main lineups up there. So that it was hosted by Johnny Gomez and Nick Diamond, real life boxing ref Mills Lane. Let's get it on and match celebrities with real life or creative beef, like we said. They had first few episodes. Well, these are just spread out throughout the seasons, but some of the more iconic ones were like Hillary Clinton versus Monica Lewinsky, Ice Cube versus Ice-T, Jordan versus Rodman. They had Rage Against the Machine versus A Machine.
Hey, look, we can change our name. It's no big deal, really. Yeah, we can call ourselves Rage Against the capitalist whoremongering United States government.
And then Christina Aguilera versus Britney Spears, which, you know, for those youngins, you know, that was like, those were the two ultimate teen idols. So they were always battling for who got the most attention. I mean, they were just raking in loads of cash, but, you know, it was all on us. I guess one of my favorite ones, they had the artist formerly known as Prince versus the Prince formerly known as Charles. So they got creative. I would say they got creative when it came to you know, what the matches were. And I watched a little behind the scenes video they had on YouTube. And it kind of reminded me of watching the behind the scenes for A Nightmare Before Christmas. You know, the stop motion puppets is what they use. And of course they had the puppeteers. And you take one picture, you move it a little bit, take another picture, move it a little bit more. They would have to do 25 minute shows. So I believe they said it was about 24 snaps, single shots to capture 1 second of real time. So just imagine how many times they have to go back and forth, move it, and then go to the camera, take the shot, move it, go back and camera shot. I mean, they probably got a good workout day, just kind of rocking back and forth, getting that done. But no, it's a tedious process, but I mean, the end result is worth it. The way that they've executed it is really awesome. Watching them, how they set up the shots, the one they had on the behind the scenes, they were doing the I think it was Backstreet Boys or NSYNC were in a robot. So they were being choked out by some gas that was starting to leak into their cab. So it's just, those are just the type of fights that you would never even think of, but the way they come up with them and execute those fights was hilarious. They had some guest commentators. The pilot episode, they actually had NBA commentator and accused biter of women Marv Albert.
For the win, yes!
As the one of the commentators. I think they probably learned their lesson the first time around and didn't have him back. They had Stone Cold Steve Austin. He'd come around. Stone Cold was huge in the mid to late 90s. Like you couldn't go you couldn't go to your local gas station without seeing 316 or someone representing Stone Cold or doing someone throwing a stunner on somebody. Like, it was happening 24/7. You were seeing some Stone Cold doing a Weisenheimer, or, you know, just something. You know, it was all Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm surprised he never got his own show earlier, even though he did get a show later, like some reality show. I think like in the mid 2000s. A little too late. They should have given him his own show in the late 90s. But he's too busy just being awesome and wrestling dudes and giving them stunners. So it would just mainly be Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then they had Stacy Cornbread was their interviewer who would interview the fighters before and after the fight. So it was a pretty awesome show, and it was one that if I happen to see it on, if it's on TV somewhere somehow and I see it, I'm gonna be watching it because the way these shows is unfolded, and the commentators, of course, Nick Diamond and Johnny Gomez, giving their color commentary, basically a little more loose than what you would normally hear at a regular match. So I figured, what's better, with Halloween coming up? Let's do our horror movie character celebrity death match. And so we always see versus, we see, Freddy versus Jason, or Gremlins versus the Critters and stuff like that. And so I wanted to kind of maybe switch it up a few, or maybe just have my play at a few to see what I would think, how just talking out loud to see how the fights would unfold given their strengths and weaknesses, because that's what we have listed here. So we're gonna go through. We got 4 matches tonight. We're gonna go through, and then we have a Twitter poll that we'll go through. We put a Twitter poll out to see what everybody else would have wanted to see the most in regards to all these fights and who would have won. So just kind of getting right into it. Let's get it on.
Now, let's get it on!
Pop up your feet and prepare for pain. Tonight on Celebrity Deathmatch.
So, the first match that we're going to be getting into today is Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in 1974 versus Michael Myers from Halloween 1978. So Leatherface that's a franchise. Texas Chainsaw is a pretty popular franchise, one that I'm familiar with, but not one that I've seen every movie, nor I would even say I've seen the original. But I'm very familiar with Leatherface just as a horror icon. I guess, a former butcher turned gruesome murderer who wears a mask of human skin, engages in murder and cannibalism alongside his insane family that controls him. So it's just a brief synopsis. The movie is inspired by the real-life murders of Ed Gein back in 1954-1957, which makes it even more creepy. And then his weapons of choice, a chainsaw and a sledgehammer, which are pretty solid choices. One's gas powered and very gruesome. The other one is, all manual labor. So he's got his array. And then, I would say his weakness, he kind of runs awkwardly. It's not a full sprint, but it's not a walk. But it's kind of like this, it's like when you kind of tripped, but you're almost gonna fall, but you're not. So you kind of catch your balance as you're leaning forward and trying to catch your balance. I think that's kind of how he runs. So that's kind of a breakdown on Leatherface. We got Michael Myers, of course, everyone knows, from Halloween, has been murdering since elementary school when he killed his teenage sister on Halloween and showed up 15 years later to stalk and kill other teenage babysitters on Halloween. I don't know what he's got against babysitters. I mean, they're just trying to keep you safe. So I don't know what it is he's got against them. But he wears a modified mask of the William Shatner from Star Trek, which I guess William Shatner didn't even know that until like a few years ago. I'm sure he learned, not just a few years ago, but he learned after the fact that that's what they were doing. So I'm sure he was trying to look for some royalties, but who knows? Good old William Shatner. Weapon of choice, hands and kitchen knife. The strangling, the punching, and then the stabbing is pretty. And then I think a lot of times if there's any household items that are available, if his knife is not in his hand, so he's got a variety as well. He stalks and casually walks to catch his victims. So I think that's gonna be his weakness. He walks a little slow, he's a little calculated, but in a ring, you're gonna need a little bit more than that. You're gonna need some agility. You're not looking to walk around. Intimidation, you're past that part at this point. You both are intimidating as hell. You are wearing a William Shatner Star Trek mask, and the other guy's wearing human skin as a mask. So you're matching each other in regards to the intimidation. So we're moving on into what's your next skill. What are you gonna do? So now we're getting into the match.
Now, let's get it on!
So I would say, Leatherface, he's got the chainsaw versus the kitchen knife, which you can already tell where that's going. He's gonna be cutting off some limbs to get Michael Myers subdued, so he's not gonna be doing anything else. So I'd say that would be the first thing. Michael Myers maybe comes back like the Black Knight from from the Holy Grail. 'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
You liar!
Come on, you pansy.
And he's gonna come back, and he's gonna come back with a fury. And I think he's gonna be using the headbutt to knock Leatherface off his game. So the headbutt's gonna come in, and then of course the chainsaw. Maybe you know what chainsaws do. They always are hard to restart. Once you get them going, you turn it off. If you're not a professional, for me, it's always been tough to get him restarted. So I think he's going to have to go back to the sledgehammer. And given that Michael Myers is kind of slow, I think he's going to try to dodge. He might dodge one or two of them. Those things are pretty heavy. And I think finally, before too long, Leatherface will catch him with one to the side of the dome, putting him into the ground there. But whenever you think Michael Myers is dead, you can't count him out, because Leatherface, of course, will probably start, cheering. He thinks this is an easy fight. I'm done. No need to do anything else. Well, like with every movie you've seen Michael Myers, he just gets up, and Leatherface has no idea why. This dude just keeps coming back. What do I do now? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. You've used your chainsaw and your sledgehammer. You have no other skill at this point, so you have to run awkwardly around the ring. So while Michael Myers walks around slowly trying to catch you, Leatherface is doing the awkward stumble, until one point he accidentally trips into Michael Myers' kitchen knife, and that ends him. I know it sounds weird, maybe a little dull, but that's just how it ends. Michael Myers wins it. No limbs. 'Tis but a scratch. Michael Myers would win that one, just because he has that weird way of not dying. So moving on to our next one, we have our second match coming up. This one, we're moving into the clown phase.
I'll allow it!
We have Pennywise the Dancing Clown versus Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So Pennywise, of course, 1986 It movie, and Killer Clowns, 1988. I would call it a good B horror movie. It, of course, a movie that I did see, or the series or whatever, and it definitely did its job for me. I was very scared of watching this movie growing up, even touching the book. Half the fact that it was so long, and the other fact that I knew how scary it was, so I didn't want to watch or read the book, but I just knew of this scary clown, which that was what Stephen King, when writing the book, was like. I wanted to think of what terrifies all kids universally, and of course clowns was the main thing he came up with. And yeah, he's right. When you see a clown, I wasn't scared of clowns, but that kind of clown.
Hi, Georgie. Aren't you gonna say hello? Oh, come on, bucko. Don't you want a balloon?
Yeah, I was scared of that. And so, yeah, of course, Pennywise, malevolent being that preys on the fears of children in form of every child's nightmare. Of course, the clown, able to shapeshift into different things like werewolves, spiders, bats, leeches, and sharks. I would say his strengths are mind control, telepathy, invisibility, puns, and super speed. So those are pretty solid ones to have in the ring. Super speed, of course, the most. Weakness, he's underestimating the decency of humanity and friendship. Of course, not being feared is another thing he doesn't like, because that kind of takes away his power. So that's going to be tough when you're going against the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because that movie freaked me out just as much, if not more, than it. Because, of course, like I said, it was like kind of a B movie, but man, this was like the way that they made these clowns definitely terrified me as a child. So there are alien clowns that travel to Earth and they travel around in circus tent, spaceship, and tiny cars, and they kill and capture all those they cross paths with while enjoying human blood for consumption. And they're not even trying to like Pennywise. Yeah, he looks kind of creepy even as a regular clown, but he still looks like a human clown. These things look like aliens dressed as clowns, and it's like horrifying. Like they look like the trolls from Ernest Scare Stupid, which is something we will be getting into eventually. And so they just, and the way they killed people too. They were bulletproof. Their strengths is they're bulletproof. They're super strength, and they use like a lot of unassuming weapons like popcorn, cotton candy, boxing gloves. So like the popcorn, like in one scene, like I remember throwing it into the toilet, and all of a sudden like these like little snake monster things came out. It's crazy. And then they use cotton candy, this cotton candy gun to capture people, and they wrap them up, and that's how they store them in their ship and stuff like that. And then the boxing glove, that scene alone, like they were like using like their hands to create shapes from shadow shapes, and the shadow shapes actually ate the people. It was crazy. And then on top of that, they had the boxing gloves, and this tiny little alien clown was gonna fight this street gang guy, and the guy's like, I'm obviously gonna knock this little thing out. He's all super confident, and this tiny little alien clown with the boxing gloves just gives him one little right hook. The dude's head flies off. So it was one of those like, oh man, like it took it to another level. So matching these two up, I thought would be wise. So we have Pennywise versus Killer Clowns. Again, I think coming into the match, the mind control, telepathy, invisibility, that would come into play. Puns, of course, you got to keep everybody entertained. It's always nice. And super speed, I think that might do it. But like these things, they have the super strength, bulletproof, that'll maybe come into play here. We'll see. But we'll see if the cotton candy gun, they'll be using that on Pennywise. So I'd say that starting out,
Now, let's get it on!
Pennywise comes in, he starts using his puns on people or on them, and he starts using his super speed to jump around. And while they're trying to shoot him with their, maybe with their popcorn or their cotton candy guns, while having the boxing gloves on. And of course, using his super speed, he's getting around it. He starts trying to use the telepathy, but when he uses telepathy on them, it doesn't work quite like when he uses it on humans. So they use it back on him, and all of a sudden, they got him sitting there doing whatever he wants, starts dancing, starts jumping around, doing cartwheels, starts punching himself, starts beating himself, and then finally he comes to and he stops. And all of a sudden he's like, okay, invisibility on. And so now they don't know what to do. They're shooting all over the place. They're shooting people in the crowd. They're shooting the announcers. Nick Diamond and Johnny Gomez are not having it, but they finally hit him. They finally catch him. They put him on his back, and they go running up to him to finish the job. And once they run up to him, mind control. He didn't know it, but they also have mind control. And they're taking over, and they've blown up his brain. His brain is done for. Pennywise is over. Killer Clowns from Outer Space take over on this one. I'd had to give it to them, not only for the fact that they are way more scarier, but for the fact that they're just way more scarier. I'm just gonna give it to them for that. So yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is our winners for that one. So for our matches so far, we have winner Michael Myers winning the first match, and then now we have Killer Clowns from Outer Space winning the second match. So now we're on to our third match for the night. This one I just talked about in the last one. Excuse me. This one we're going on to Trolls. So I'm talking about Trantor, the troll from Ernest Scared Stupid back in 1991 versus Turok, the troll from the 1986 movie, the first before that terrible sequel that everybody references and talks about.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my god!
This was the first one of that one. So now I'm talking about that troll. So these are the two trolls that we're going against. And I brought out Trantor because Trantor has been an ongoing nightmare since I watched this movie back in 1991. Like, as a kid, it was one of those movies like I legitimately could not watch it by myself. I had to have a parent in the house. Somebody, all the lights in the house had to be on, including the basement. Like, it's just one of those, like, his face, how big and nasty and all the stuff moving around on it, for them to think that was suitable for 1991 children, I don't know what the hell was going on. It threw me for the loop, and I thought I was the only one. I thought I was a sissy. I was like, I'm probably the only one who's that scared about this thing, but I've learned over the years, I'm not the only one. There's plenty of people out there who have expressed their terrifying fears of Trantor. And of course, growing up, I didn't know his name was Trantor. I was just like the troll from Ernest Scared Stupid. And finally, eventually, I was like, Trantor, please don't do it to me. And then especially watching him pull the truck backwards. Oh yeah, as a kid, I was like, my dad owns a truck like that. We ain't getting away. not even with the troll away. Can't be using it. Nothing's gonna work. So, but Trantor, ancient evil troll, desperately trying to kill everything until he reaches Ernest P. World.
You're gonna pay for the sins of your forefathers.
I didn't have forefathers. I just had one father, and I didn't know him that well.
He's got, low stable center of gravity, superhuman strength to lift and pull a truck, like I said, as it's going. And then his weapons, he's got super strength, like we talked about, super breath, kind of like Superman, and is able to use magic to summon other trolls. His weakness, of course, we all can remember, Miak.
Let's see how you like a little Miak.
Miak.
Yeah, Miak. I bet you thought I couldn't find any this time of year. Well, I'm a little too resourceful for you, a little too light on my feet. So come on.
Or actually, it's just milk. But still, I do reference milk as Miak a lot. So that's his weakness. So hopefully the Torok, the troll, might have some of that up his sleeve. So we have a former magical wizard turned troll for punishment from a parallel realm that included other magical fairy worlds able to possess and transform others. So if you haven't seen this movie, it's been a lot. I saw it back in, good old HBO summer days. It's creepy for sure. This family moves into some apartment building. The little girl sees the troll. He takes over her mind, and her family starts getting all creeped out because she's being all creeped out. And eventually they find out there's this troll trying to take over his old world by turning this apartment building into part of the world. I don't know, but it was crazy and it was a little creepy. The troll was nuts. And I did watch the second one, which is one of the weirdest movies probably anyone will ever see, where they try these trolls that they didn't even try to create. They didn't even try to create, doable costumes. They just put masks on little kids and had them walk around. But they were basically capturing this entire town and turning them into vegetables and eating people. It was weird, and the acting, it was atrocious. But the first one was actually a lot better. And so I watched it. It's got the little ball bouncing kind of. I remember seeing that in the trailers or seeing that in the movie poster. So Torok is bound to his determination to transform as many people into trolls so he can take over his magical fairy world. His weapon is a magic crystal ring to capture and possess and transform people into trolls that will follow his orders. His weakness is plunging a magic staff into the heart of Torok's world that he is creating. So we're just going to imagine that part of that world is in the ring. So we just need to get to that point. So Trantor and Torok. Here we go.
Let's get it on!
Trantor, like I said, he's got the low center of gravity, but Torok has got the smaller one. So he's going to try to, do a little tackle action. He's going to miss him. Torok's going to use his magical ring to try to transform Trantor into one of his own trolls so he can use him as one of his supposed giants, because he's a lot bigger of a troll than what Torok is. So I think that's going to be his frame of mind. He's going to try to turn him. But Trantor's is like, nah, bro, you're going to help me. I need to get to Ernest. And so, of course, he gets out his little knife staff that he used in the movies, tries to slash him and dash him a few times. Little troll. He's got super agility, so he's rolling around, doing all kinds of stuff. He keeps firing his little rings. Got little lasers coming out of it. And finally, they both come to the decision. They know what they both have to do. They have to now summon all their friends, because that's just what they did in the movies. Trantor summoned all the little poop eggs turned into other trolls, so they start coming out of the ground. Torok, all the people that he's turned, maybe the front row, turned the front row into his own little creatures, and now they're coming to fight into the ring. So now we got like a whole band of trolls on the ring. It's gross. It's nasty. They have to mop it up afterward. So now they're getting after it. You know, people got rings, people got staffs, people got knives. It's going crazy until finally you see Trantor do a super 180, Matrix double flip in the air with the staff in hand, and he's about to stab Torok's world. But all of a sudden, he's stopped midair by Torok's ring, and he's just done playing around. He's like, I could just throw you into a wall. I could just throw you into the crowd. But I'm going to fill your blood full of miak or milk. And that's exactly what he does. Fills his body full of milk and just disintegrating him into one giant puddle of chocolate milk. But it's not chocolate milk. And Torok, the troll, wins against Trantor. And that basically, I did that because I want to put to rest Trantor. I want to act like he's dead. So I don't ever want to think about him again because he's too scary. I hate you, Trantor. So now we're on to our last match of the night. And so this one, we went down to dolls. So we went Chucky versus Gremlins. They're not necessarily dolls. You can purchase them as dolls now, but we'll say tiny monsters. Then in that case, so Chucky, Child's Play, 1988, and Gremlins, 1984. Of course, Child's Play, one of those franchises that was on all the time. USA Network, TBS, and any of those movie channels, they always showed it, but they never showed like all of it. It was one of those they definitely edited. It was edited for TV, so you didn't get the full version of what they probably should have seen. So when I saw Child's Play, Chucky, and the VHS, man, that really threw me for one, because I was like, man, this is way worse than what they're showing on TV, and I was just like, man, this is scary as hell, because of course all us kids have dolls, or we've all had a doll. Sisters, brothers have toys that are just like it, and that's the next thing you think of. You're already thinking that your toys are looking at you. Next thing you know is they have a movie telling you that's probably what's happening, and not only that, they're murderers.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch! You filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
So yeah, it was interesting. So Chucky, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler, utilizes voodoo to transfer his soul into a Chucky doll or other unsuspecting people, which is one of his strengths. Voodoo, you're gonna get around. Chucky is very arrogant. He has the strength of a full-size man, which I didn't really know that's what they were going for in the movie. I just figured, he just had a really strong punch for a doll. But I guess when you get punched by Chucky, it's like you're getting punched by a 47-year-old man who knows voodoo. Weapons, of course, talked about voodoo. Manipulation, he is kind of an asshole. And he uses a lot of available objects lying around. So he doesn't really, I would say, have a weapon of choice. Maybe a knife a lot. But not anything that's kind of lying around that he could just shove in someone's skin. That's basically what Chucky's going to do. He's that brutal. So yeah, they had the 3 movies. All pretty scary. All, I would say held up to some degree. But not masterpieces by any degree either. But they're entertaining. And then we have Gremlins, 1984. Of course, everyone knows Gremlins.
Talk a little bit about what's going on in this room, because I think there are some fascinating ramifications here for the future. When you introduce genetic material of research quality to a life form such as ours, which is possessed of a sort of, I hesitate to use the word, atavism, but let us say a highly aggressive nature.
This is your Christmas classic. As very few would say, tiny reptilian creatures that start out as mogwais, and then they turn into gremlins if they get wet or eat after midnight. But they're obsessed with being mischievous, cruel pranks, and deadly destruction. which you've seen in the first few movies, especially the second one. I think I like the second one better than the first, just because they kind of amp up their deadly prankness of everything, like how they have no regard for what they're doing, but they think it's hilarious. They're having a great time. Their one weakness is the sunlight melts them. Melts them like the Wicked Witch. But they get wet. If they get wet double time, they just make more gremlins. It's just kind of one of those situations. So I'm gonna keep them away from water. But well, we're down to our last match, so let's get some Chucky and gremlins going here.
Let's get it on!
So Chucky, being the asshole he is, he's gonna be talking shit. He's gonna be trying to hype himself up, amping himself up. Gremlins are gonna have nothing to do with it. We got Stripe. Stripe's gonna be representing for the gremlins, and so he'll be in there and he's gonna be talking all intellectually, telling Chucky that he's just he's just a man who maybe had some mommy issues, and he's just looking for another way to let them out. And Chucky's not having it. He's like, I'm sick of you trying to get in my head. So Chucky runs over, he tries to stab Stripe with the big old knife that he's got, and Stripe, just being the intellectual he is, also a voodoo master, or not a voodoo master, a kung fu master as well. So he's just dodging, doing all these crazy flips, jumps, whips around the knife, and finally to the end where we get to Chucky has no idea what he's going to be doing. He tries a manipulation. He hasn't worked. He can't do it. He can't out manipulate this guy. He's too intellectual. So Chucky just goes back to his game. He's always his original plan, voodoo. He's got to bust out the voodoo. But it's not really working because the voodoo takes a long time. It's kind of one of those, he says a lot of stuff for a while. You gotta wait for the clouds to come in. You gotta wait for the storm to start brewing up. It's not an instant type of, you turn into Chucky takes your soul, or puts his soul into your body. It's kind of a process. So, given that it's his biggest weapon, I would say it's a fallback as well. But like I said, the gremlins are having none of it. So Stripe comes running in, kind of breaks the spell up. But as he's breaking up the spell, the little storm up there, well, it starts raining. And it starts raining right on Stripe. And it starts creating more. You can see the bubbles in his back, and he's starting to create more gremlins as right as he's on top of Chucky. And Chucky's like, "Oh God, how am I going to stop this? What am I going to do?" So what does Chucky do? Well, he uses the voodoo to create a lightning bolt that strikes a bolt into the ceiling of the arena, and it shines a big old bright light into the arena, and it goes right onto all the gremlins, and they just start melting like they did in Gremlins 2. And so Chucky, being the asshole that he is, uses some voodoo to get himself out of the fight. So Chucky would win against the gremlins. So that was the fourth fight. And so going through those and trying to make up the fight as we went on was a little tough, given I wanted to have somebody else there to play off of, but I think I made it work. I think they're alright. The stories maybe it may be a little hard to follow, but use your imagination. That's all I can say. Just use your imagination. But before we go, that was the last fight. But before we go, we do have a Twitter poll. We did some Twitter poll action. I put out there like which horror movie, celebrity deathmatch would you want to see, or the most out of the ones that we had listed. So the one right now that's in the lead, we had Leatherface versus Michael Myers. So everyone was excited to hear about that one. Chucky versus Gremlins is close, about 36%. Leatherface and Michael Myers have 50%, and then we have Pennywise and Killer Clowns with 12%. Sorry, Trantor, I don't think anyone knows who the hell you are, and Torok, no one even cares about you. There's 2%, so that's kind of where we're at. And then we had one shout out. We had Flendish Fitz at Mike at Fitzgerald, Warlock versus Wishmaster, which is pretty awesome. I'm not too familiar with either one of them, but I think that others I will be, and so maybe that's something you guys would want to see. I wish they would bring back Celebrity Deathmatch. I think we're ready for it. We have plenty of celebrity beef, stupid reality show beef that we could probably easily make 3 to 4 more seasons of that show. I'm game. I'm game to bring back some Celebrity Deathmatch because I enjoyed watching it. I mean, I don't ever see it on TV. Given I don't watch that much TV anymore, but I would watch some old school episodes. They're not available on YouTube. There's maybe like clips, so I got to find full episodes and check it out because, like I said, watching it back in the day, it was always a good pastime. It was something you can literally watch to pass time, have it in the background, and then watch a few of the clips that you knew were coming up, some of the awesome kills from the show. So that was pretty much it. Flying solo tonight. Glad you guys bear with me the whole time. Like I said, was hoping to have someone to play off of to create some of these fights, but doing it on the fly, I think I did okay. I'm not gonna call myself a master, but I think I did okay with some of these matches. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys sticking around. Again, I know I brought it up a few times, but we're gonna be having the Shining Halloween Stanley Hotel Room movie commentary coming out here before too long. I would say kind of 2 weeks will be coming out, so that'll be our not this coming episode, but the following. Excited for that. Of course, editing at this point, still looking to hear if we have any ghosts stealing my deodorant in the middle of the night. So we'll be keeping you updated. But alright, everybody, well, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. Make sure you tune in every Throwback Thursdays for new episodes of the podcast. Subscribe, like, follow, and rate the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Infirmary Media Podcast Network. Also, follow the podcast on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Be Kind Rewind Pod for all of your nostalgic needs. So thanks, and be excellent to each other.
And now, a word from
Infirmary Media.